You know what's fascinating? The Gray Man has almost all of the same problems as Cherry, the last post-Marvel movie that the Russo Brothers directed, borrowing another big MCU star. MCU stars should stop picking up the phone when they call, unless it's for Secret Wars. This movie, just like Cherry, is too glib, all over the place, not just with the timeline, like, we're jumping back and forth, and you're like, it's still bad, and visually all over the place, to the point that it doesn't have a visual feel, a visual theme to the film. Plus, it has just a horrible script, like really, so poorly written. And it's a Netflix film though, so it's pretty standard at this point to have big stars, big budget, but yet for some reason, absolutely none of that money spent on the script. I know that there's this feeling in Hollywood that if you want to make a movie for international appeal, it should be as light on story as possible, and not really need the dialogue, so people, don't have to worry about, the dub or the subtitles. But I think that's really, underestimating and somewhat insulting to the global audience. If a movie's good enough, people will watch it regardless, as we can see. If that were the case, really crappy movies would be the most successful movies of all time. No. Some of you will be like, but that's true, Grace. But no, I think we can all agree that we understand why the movies that are the big movies on the all-time top 10 list are there. So I think this is a bad business plan, because these movies, boy, they're not good. But if you can power through, I know a lot of you are looking forward to The Gray Man. So if you can power through the first 20 minutes, which are going to be rough, get ready. You're going to have to really power up and be like, don't even get your food maybe until half an hour or 20 minutes in. If you're having a meal while watching this movie. Because it's just cliche after cliche. You're like, I get it. You're the Bourne Identity, Mission. I have so much more respect for Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie for doing such a good job with the Mission Impossible movies, and the Barbara Broccoli for handling the 007 franchise, because they're able to tell story after story in those worlds. And this can't even tell a first story, but it borrows so heavily from those franchises. But then, thankfully, after that first act or so, it just turns into nonstop action and big set pieces. So you're like, well, at least they stopped talking. They just crack a lot of jokes, and some of them are very funny. So it just devolves into a stunt show. On that note, I was very curious to see if the Russo brothers could duplicate their MCU magic in a non-MCU movie. Because, of course, their MCU movies are known not just for incredible action scenes, but having so many of them. Like Avengers Endgame, it was an incredible experience. And this movie does have a ton of action scenes. But I was thinking about it because I was like, these aren't as fun. Why is that? I mean, they're visually fascinating, a lot of really clever flourishes. And I was like, I think not having the iconic, already established Marvel characters to play with really hurts the Russo brothers. Because here we have characters and a story that's so hollow and shallow that it doesn't matter how good the action scene is, because you're just not invested in the movie. Also, a lot of green screen in some places. There's even a funeral, and I was like, is that a green screen? In the two shot of Billy Bob Thornton and Chris Evans, I was like, I think that's a green screen. It was ridiculous. Anyway, but again, it's good enough for Netflix to stream at no extra cost at home. And to be honest, I don't think a bigger screen, seeing this in the theater, where it played for a week, would have made a difference. You might be like, this movie's not good because you were meant to see it on the big screen. Nope, because the color palette is kind of muted and the depth of field is very shallow, so it really doesn't seem cinematic either. At no point where you can see just by looking at it that it's a streaming movie. The Russo, even with the visual flourishes, it still has a cheapness underlying it, which is weird because it was so expensive to make. I don't know where that money went. It must have been everyone's salary. The Russo brothers have been teasing going back to Marvel for Secret Wars. They're like, we're going to make 2 movies. It's going to be amazing. Should we? You should. They should do that. Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers clearly both need each other, and we need them to be together as well, because this is no fun with them being separate. Thankfully, though, some of the actors really step up and make the movie watchable, in addition to the action scenes and one-liners, which the actors are delivering. I always enjoy Ryan Gosling, but I know he's an acquired taste because his box office numbers are typically low. He helped kill Blade Runner, and I hope he doesn't hurt Barbie. I think he looks great in Barbie, but some of you just don't like him. It's like Jake Gyllenhaal. Some of us, a small group of us, are just in love with these guys and think they're so talented and quirky and interesting, but most people don't agree. I think here Ryan Gosling makes for a solid action hero, and he of course handles the comedy and emotional parts of the role quite well, because he's a great actor. He doesn't really pop, though, because his role is just so bland and generic. Like, wow. He's also stuck with this paternal B storyline with Julia Butters, who is very precocious after her big break. She's still doing the precocious bit after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I feel that precocious is fun, but I think particularly with women, for some reason Hollywood thinks the meaner a woman is, the cooler she is. And I never liked that. I think, compassion looks good on everyone. So I thought she was a little mean and jerky, but we'll see how other people react. Because I thought she was also a little mean and jerky in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And a lot of people are like, who's that? But as for the storyline, it's really just going through the motions. A lot of single dads in Hollywood these days. You got to work harder, Russo Brothers, to make yours stand out. Chris Evans, though, he is phenomenal here. Wow, he at least gets to chew the scenery. And it's great to see him being funny and smarmy again, which he did in Knives Out as well. And that used to be his bread and butter before he got kind of straitjacketed, but did a great job still as Captain America. He takes a little time to warm up here, but once he gets going, he is so fun to watch. And after her turn in No Time to Die, Ana de Armas once again proves that she is a very solid action star. And she deserves to get a chance to be an action lead. And it looks like she's getting one, as she's supposed to be in the new John Wick spin-off, the Ballerina movie. And let's hope that works out. Billy Bob Thornton easily earns his paycheck, as does Alfre Woodard. They have very small but potent roles. And Thornton is in particular. He really delivers some great singers. He's very well used here. He has some ridiculous wigs, particularly like in the opening scene. But after that, he let him have his natural hair, and he's great. It's always funny and disorienting to see skinny Wagner Moura. I was like, it took me a few minutes. I was like, who is that? And I was like, it's Wagner Moura. Hilarious. And while I hated her haircut, which was actually a joke in the movie, Jessica Henwick does a very nice job here as well. Particularly as the movie progresses. At first, her role seems kind of thankless, but I thought it had some nice developments. Who's not? Oh, and Dhanush fans. I know a lot of you are eager to see the Gray Man just for him, and you'll be happy to know that the movie treats him like the star that he is. Rejoice! Now, who's not good? Shockingly, Rege-Jean Page. Hopefully, the Russo brothers just did a bad job directing him, but considering how all the other actors were able to still step up and compensate for the horrible script, maybe Page shouldn't be so quick to close the door on a return to Bridgerton. Recently, I saw him saying they could recast his role. Hold the phone! Send them an email! Don't do that. You might need to go back. His acting here really is as bad as the script. I was like, why didn't someone pull him aside and be like, don't hit the desk and the door like that? I mean, you look ridiculous. All right, so yeah, at no extra cost, in the comfort of your own home, you should totally and will, I'm sure, watch The Gray Man. It's too much for you to resist. But put your phone and other devices as far away from you as possible. You're like, but I'm going to watch this on my phone or device. Don't do it, because it will be hard you'll get bored, and your attention will wander, and you'll start scrolling on the internet. And then this movie doesn't really offer enough incentive for you to return your attention fully to it, and you'll miss the few action scenes and one-liners that, if you're going to watch this, you should see that. I mean, you'll just be sucked into the internet and never go back. Try not to pause too much, because, then it'll just seem like it goes on forever. You just got to commit to watching it, no matter how bland it might be. Just do it, because then it's going to be like you didn't do anything. Your evening will just be like a weird memory. You know what that's like. Don't do that. All right, so that's my review of The Gray Man, available on Netflix this Friday, where I'm sure it'll do big numbers. But Extraction, which also did huge numbers and is getting a sequel and was produced by the Russo brothers, well, that movie was much better. I don't even know if this will get a sequel. I mean, sometimes I'm like, I could like to see some of this come back. But you know what? This was more like Six Underground. Six Underground was unwatchable. This is thankfully watchable. But on the slider from Six Underground to Extraction, this leans more towards Six Underground. So that should give you some idea of what you're in for. That was bad. All right, so anyway, share your thoughts down below. I know some of you saw this in the theater, so don't put spoilers, because there's not really any spoilers. But try not to, because I think there was one cool escape that Ryan Gosling had in particular that I was like, that was pretty cool. That made me laugh out loud, actually. But anyway, the rest I was like, bland, but, I committed. All right, so anyway, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.